A beaver was desperately gnawing branches, but his teeth suddenly stopped working. Seeing this, his companions started laughing, but they were scared and ran away in panic the next moment. The little beaver quickly turned his head and found that a fat king with a crown had come here. He threw the axe in his hand towards the little beaver and then started drawing the outline of the country on the ground. The little beaver was very excited and volunteered to help the king build the palace. He picked up the axe and started chopping wood like crazy. His speed and posture were very graceful. He was definitely 10 times faster than that half-baked bald man. They built the outline of the house in just half a day, but it was completely different from the design shown in the picture. The king also ordered the little beaver to work around the clock. He had to stop working, which made the little beaver very sad, but he had to work obediently under the pressure of the king. This time he put in all his strength, and it only took him 2.5 days to cut down half of the forest. When the king woke up from his deep sleep, he found himself in the air. He couldn't help but be surprised. He hadn't expected that the palace's splendor would far exceed his expectations, and it was 3,000 meters high, with white clouds and mountains visible from it. The king was very excited, but before he could be happy for 2 seconds, the palace suddenly began to collapse. He ran away at lightning speed and luckily survived. At the same time, Little Beaver was staring at the tree on the ground. Juan was stunned, and the king was furious when he saw this. He began cursing Little Beaver and said that his construction work was worse than a shoddy project, and then he threatened Little Beaver to rebuild the palace. Little Beaver immediately threw his axe in anger and decided not to follow the king's order. Unexpectedly, the king grabbed him and threw him away. Seeing that the castle was collapsing, the king was distressed and rushed in. He wanted to build a castle weighing thousands of tons with his own blood and flesh. However, at this time, the Little Beaver was surprisingly angry and had no intention of coming forward to help. Unexpectedly, at this time, a storm came, and the big tree behind the Little Beaver was directly uprooted. The castle was completely reduced to ruins. The Little Beaver finally grabbed the roots of a tree on the ground and heard him cursing the king, who was swept away by the storm. The Little Beaver couldn't bear it anymore, so he picked up the axe lying on the ground and threw it at the king. The story ends here. I believe everyone has understood how tragic the king's end was, which was entirely his own fault. He built the castle for his selfish desires and destroyed the forest by cutting down trees, causing devastating damage to the ecological environment of the forest. Without the protection of the forest, the storm directly swept away the entire country. Not only was the palace destroyed, but he also had to sacrifice his life for it. So protecting the environment is also protecting ourselves.